True Cabin Horror Stories. Story 1. The house only smelled at night. Hey Reddit, I've never posted here before, but something happened a few years ago that still gives me chills when I think about it. I figured if any place would understand, it's here. Back in 2017, my wife and I bought an old farmhouse in upstate New York. It was cheap, too cheap, and it had that kind of crumbling charm that made you feel like you were rescuing it from time itself. It had been empty for over a decade, though the realtor told us an elderly couple had lived there peacefully for over 40 years before passing away. We moved in that spring, excited to start renovating. The house was old, yes, but mostly solid. Thick walls, old beams, creaky but beautiful floors. The land around it was sprawling and untouched. It felt like we had escaped modern life. But right away, something felt off. It started with the smell. During the day, everything was fine. But every night, only at night, a foul odor filled the house. It wasn't constant. It would come in waves, like a breeze passing through, thick and sweet and wrong. We tried everything, checked the septic, searched for dead animals in the walls, cleaned the entire place from attic to basement. Nothing helped. We couldn't figure it out. Even professionals we brought in were baffled. Maybe it's the old wood soaking up moisture, one said. Try airing it out more. We did. It didn't help. Around the third week, I started waking up at odd hours. Always between 2 and 3 a.m. I'd hear creaking footsteps downstairs. Not the usual settling sounds, either, rhythmic, like someone pacing slowly. I thought maybe it was just my mind playing tricks on me, or the old wood expanding and contracting. But then my wife heard it too. One night, she shook me awake, her eyes wide. Listen, she whispered. I did. Clear as day, we both heard the floorboards creaking, slow, deliberate steps going from the kitchen to the hallway, just below our bedroom. I grabbed a flashlight and went down, heart pounding, ready to find some raccoon or, worse, a squatter. Nothing. Everything was still. The door was locked, windows shut tight, but the smell was stronger than ever. Thick and sweet, like rotting flowers. A few days later, my wife started sleepwalking. I'd find her downstairs in the middle of the night, standing by the old pantry door. Eyes open but unseeing. She'd always say the same thing when I gently shook her awake, they're still hungry. She never remembered saying it. That was when I started researching the house. I went to the town's historical society, dug through old records, newspaper clippings, anything I could find. And that's when I found something odd. The elderly couple, who'd supposedly lived there. They weren't listed as owners until 1986. Before that, the property sat abandoned for nearly 40 years. The last known residents before that were a family of 7. They disappeared in 1949. Just gone. No trace. There was a single mention in a local paper. Authorities suspect the family may have moved west, though neighbors claim no moving trucks were ever seen. No investigation. No follow-up. I confronted the realtor about it. She got quiet and said, it's just an old house with a long history. Sometimes that kind of energy sticks around. We moved out 2 weeks later. I still don't know what exactly happened in that house. But some nights, usually around 2:30 a.m., I wake up and swear I can smell that sickly sweet odor, even now, hundreds of miles away. Maybe it's just my imagination. Or maybe, they're still hungry. Story 2. The upstairs room no one built. Hey, everyone. I've been sitting on this for a long time. My family doesn't like to talk about it, and maybe writing it out will help me finally sleep without keeping the hallway light on. This happened when I was 12. My parents had just inherited an old farmhouse from my great-uncle, who passed away alone. It was the kind of house you picture in stories, 2 stories tall, a steep roof, weathered white siding, and a front porch with a swing that creaked when there was no wind. The house had been in the family for generations, though no one had lived in it full-time since the 1970s. We moved in because it was free, and my dad figured he could fix it up over time. The layout was simple: a living room, dining room, kitchen, and study downstairs. 3 bedrooms upstairs. But there was something odd I noticed right away. From the outside, you could see 4 upstairs windows. But inside, there were only 3 bedrooms. I pointed it out to my dad, thinking it was some kind of attic. He shrugged it off, said it was probably just a closet or sealed off space and not to worry. But I did worry. The fourth window sat above the back of the house. I could see it from the yard, always dark behind the glass, no matter the time of day. And at night, sometimes, I'd see a light flicker behind it. Not like a lamp, more like someone holding a candle, moving slowly across the room. I didn't tell my parents at first, but my younger brother, Ben, started acting strange. He'd disappear for hours and say he was playing with the quiet girl upstairs. When we asked him what he meant, he'd just smile and say, "She doesn't talk much, but she likes games." There was no one else around for miles. One night, I woke up to hear whispering outside my door. I opened it slowly and found Ben standing in the dark hallway, facing the wall. Just standing there, not moving. I asked what he was doing. He whispered, "She says you shouldn't go in the room. She says it's hers." I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I finally got the courage to look for the missing room. I measured the hallway, the bedrooms, and compared it to the outside of the house. There had to be a fourth room. I knocked on the wall where the missing space should have been. Hollow. That afternoon, I went into the study and found an old blueprint of the house tucked in a drawer. It showed 4 rooms upstairs, 3 labeled, bedroom, and 1 left blank. Just empty space, boxed in, no door. When I showed it to my dad, he got real quiet. He said when he was a kid, his uncle told him never to try opening that wall. "Let the room stay forgotten," he'd said. "It's better that way." We moved out 2 weeks later after Ben disappeared for an entire night. We found him the next morning asleep in the hallway, curled up in front of that part of the wall. He was ice cold. When we woke him up, he said only one thing: "She said you'll hear knocking soon." We did. Every night for a week before we left, just after 3 a.m., there would be 3 soft knocks behind that wall. Always 3. Never more. Never less. That house still stands. I looked it up recently. Someone bought it last year. In the listing photos, I noticed something that made my stomach twist. They added a 4th bedroom upstairs. Fresh drywall. A lamp by the window. But in the reflection of the mirror on the dresser, I swear I saw a little girl standing in the corner. Smiling. Story 3. The Man in the Root Cellar. This happened to my cousin Jonah and me in 2014, and I've never told the full story before. Mostly because it still makes me sick to think about it. But maybe writing it down will help me sleep again. My uncle used to own an old logging cabin in western Maine, deep in the forest near the Quebec border. No roads reached it anymore, you had to hike in 3 miles on foot. It was built in the 1940s for lumbermen working the hills, and after the last company pulled out, my uncle bought it dirt cheap as a hunting spot. No power, no plumbing, just a hand pump well, a cast iron stove, and a root cellar dug into the hill behind the cabin. It was that cellar that started everything. Jonah and I were 19, spending a weekend up there while my uncle was out of town. We wanted a break from college, just some fishing and quiet. We got there late Friday and lit the wood stove. Everything seemed normal at first, just the usual creaks and groans of an old place settling into night. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to a thump. Just one, like something heavy landing outside. I figured it was a branch or an animal and went back to sleep. The next morning, I found tracks outside. Not boot prints, not animal, bare feet, human-sized, leading from the tree line straight to the cellar door. The thing is, the root cellar had been sealed for years. The wood door was swollen and chained shut with a rusted padlock. My uncle said it was dangerous and told us never to open it. But the tracks ended right there. No return trail, no drag marks, just ended. Jonah laughed it off. "Probably our own prints from yesterday," he said. But I knew they weren't. The toes were too long. Almost off. Like fingers, almost. That night, we heard it again. Thump, thump, thump. Like footsteps. Heavy ones. But not from outside. From beneath us. We froze. The cabin had no basement, no crawlspace. Just the root cellar behind it, partially dug into the hill. The floorboards under our feet vibrated slightly with each thud. Jonah grabbed the hatchet. I took the flashlight. Outside, the air was bitter cold and completely still. No wind. No bugs. Just us and the dark forest pressing in. We walked around to the root cellar. The chain was still on. Padlock still rusted shut. But this time, the door was slightly ajar. Only by an inch or two. But enough to see that something had forced it open from the inside. We didn't sleep that night. Around 3 a.m., we heard the footsteps again. But slower. Almost like someone was walking in circles underneath the floor. And then we heard breathing. Labored, dragging, wet. The worst part, it wasn't muffled. It wasn't like hearing something through the floor. It was closer. I whispered, "Jonah, do you hear that?" He didn't answer. When I turned to look at him, he was staring at the wood stove, pale as snow. I followed his eyes. The fire had gone out. The glass door had fogged over. And on the inside, pressed against the soot-black glass, was a handprint. 5 long, spindly fingers. From the inside. We left the next morning. Didn't pack. Just ran. Weeks later, my uncle asked if we had opened the cellar. We told him no. He said when he went back up, he found the door completely gone. Not broken. Gone. Like it had been lifted out of the earth. He said something else too. Something I wish I hadn't asked about. He told us that back in the 60s, before he bought the land, a man lived up there alone. Went missing one winter. Locals said he went wrong in the head. Started digging tunnels beneath the cabin, trying to live underground, like the old gods. They found the cellar full of bones and scratch marks. No one knows what happened to him. But sometimes, people still hear breathing in the woods. And when they go to the cabin, they find the stove fogged up, and a handprint inside the glass.